I'll go back up. Whilst recently researching a video for our World Cup coverage, I noticed that I and one of my favourite riders have the same body weight. Now this rider is kind of widely acknowledged to have the most dialed setup on the whole circuit. And so a couple of weeks later, when I bumped into someone from the company that sponsors his suspension, I asked, is there any way I could get hold of a set of his dampers and go ride it? They said sure. I was very surprised. I was very excited. So then I rang his frame manufacturer and I said, is there any chance you've got a battered old frame with the paint falling off where you wouldn't mind that I borrowed it for a weekend to put it through its paces with this World Cup level suspension, just to see what it's like to ride? And they said, well, we could, but he's not riding the stock bike. He's riding a very special bike. He's riding this bike that's shrouded in mystery that everyone wants to know how it works, how it does what it does, and how it looks so goddamn settled through the rough stuff. So, unbelievably, we're in Whistler, and it's the stuff of my dreams, because on that lift in front of me, hanging, and it'll be waiting for me at the top, is the new Specialized prototype bike. I'm the first person that's not a Specialized, organizational member to ride the bloody thing. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I love my job, and I get to do some pretty cool stuff. I've argued about aliens with Mike Levy, and I've got Kaz out on the town. But today is extra special, because in front of me is Loic Bruni's frame. It is the Specialized Gravity Edition prototype, and I get to ride it here in Whistler. It's gonna be one hell of a day. So, this is what we're up to. Right now, I have my forks on this bike and a stock damper front and rear. And I'm gonna spend the first day kind of matching the rear feeling suspension towards the fork that I know that I ride quite a lot. Then on the second day, we're gonna go onto Loic's dampers with Loic settings, and I'm just gonna try and hold on for dear life. One of the things that really interests me about Loic's bike is that it seems to be so composed whilst going so deep into the travel and relatively quick to return. Now, I'm in the church of fast rebound settings and soft springs, but the thing is, he rides so much harder than me that I don't think he's got a light rebound tune at all. In fact, he's just managing to store so much energy in the spring, and I'm quite terrified to ride a bike that bloody hard. But right now, we're gonna stick to my gentle, enthusiast level settings and hopefully see what this frame can do. So first run, pretty excited. Brand new brakes as well in the wet, so I'm gonna take it pretty cruisy, just get the bike settled. And I've got to set up the rear shock as well, so I reckon though from the off, as I get this bike set up, got a bit more low speed. It's just falling through that initial part of the stroke. Oh my God. That is so planted through the turns. Still falling through the stroke a bit. More compression. Oh, this bike is so planted. Oh, that is so soft. Can't work out if it's like, if it's maybe too soft. It's hard to say. Oh my God, this thing eats. Quite quiet through the feet for a bike with a, I suppose what it's got, 6-bar thing. Doing a good job of isolating a lot of the chunk away from the pedals. Fuck, these roots and rocks could be a bit slippy. I'm just gonna creep down here. Good bottom out, didn't get end stroke. It feels bottomless. I don't know if I want more spring rate, hey. Which makes Loic's bikes seem a bit less intimidating. Oh, this bike, me. How cool is this? Skids ripping. Everyone giving it a good bloody go. GoPro's off. I'm actually quite happy we're going up a spring rate early on.
Perfect.
That means it's less far to me getting absolutely destroyed by Loic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's my thinking. Because if imagine a world where I'm like, go up like 100 pounds.
For sure.
I'm going to die.
Yeah, at least you'll only be shading up, 50 or so. I mean, we'll be going up a couple damper rates as well. But
yeah. So can you explain damper rates to me? Because, when a bike comes out, it will be OE tuned. So, the manufacturers will do a bit of this. Yeah. But what can you just explain the go?
Well, I guess in our specific instance, when it comes to the downhill bike, we work so closely with the team that it won't vary much from what the team is running. Of course, maybe we'll shade it a tad lighter, or we'll find something that captures the range of riders that are expected to race on a demo, privateers, et cetera, but we want it to be race worthy. We're not gonna back down from that, especially on a demo. So,
but for the consumer at home, they might be wondering, you've got this big downhill bike, why do you need, if they're running a higher spring rate, so that can store more energy, it's harder to get into its stroke, why do they also need more compression? Would you be able to explain that?
That's a great question. So of course, you have position-sensitive force outputs via the spring and the leverage rate. That equals a wheel rate, right? It's the amalgamation of both of those things. But you also have these high velocity impacts that need to be carried via a speed-sensitive platform, right? So the combination of those two things are what creates the sauce. It's not just one or the other, and you need a good balance of both. And
in terms of rebound, that's something that's obviously super important, because the more energy that spring can hold, if you're bottoming out a 600 pound spring compared to a 400 pound spring, there's literally more force to return. And that's one of the things that scares me most going into Loic's bike.
Absolutely.
I was hoping he was basically running something quite fast, because at least, it's indicative of the fact that, I don't know how much harder he rides a bike than me. Not only does it look like it's incredibly fast, but he's also, I'm running full open rebound on a stock tune. Yeah. They're having this huge sort of apparatus around them to get them firmer tunes, firmer spring rates. Yep, absolutely. And he's probably running it's returning a lot more force, eh? Yeah, like you said, to put it in layman's terms, right? The higher the spring rate, the more pent-up energy you have. So, of course, you need to scale your rebound to match. Those guys are running higher spring rates, so of course their rebound's going to reflect. Yeah. We'll try to get you close, for sure. I know you like your rebound pretty wide open, especially in the rear. Yeah. It'll be intriguing to see your feedback once you hop on that setup. Yeah. As long as it's equal, which it will be. Do you know what I mean? We're going to try our best. Then it'll be at least hopefully balanced, and I'm not just going to get you rusted out the front. It might just be stiff front and rear for you, Perfect. We'll give it our go. This video should be maybe titled, How We Make the World's Most Expensive and Luxurious Downhill Bike a Hardtail. Do you know what I mean? In a way. Henry makes a clunker. We'll just title it, Henry Gets the Rattled Loose. Yeah. Wakey, wakey, hands off brakey. Get it, buddy. Oi, oi. This bike is so composed. Yeah, buddy. This bike is absolutely unbelievable. The grip, front to aft, is just amazing. It was grippier down there than I expected on those rocks. I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, me too. I'm not bummed. It feels better with a bit more, just a bit of rebound on it. Yeah, a click or two of rebound just to keep the heels dropped. Yeah, that's it. The chassis feels amazing though. And yeah, we have such a good library of stiffnesses that we can pick and choose from to kind of get us to where we need to be. Give me a bump forward. There you go. But it's like, it feels like that's the next frontier of bike design.
Chassis.
Chassis stiffness.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. That's what I really like about the Supreme is not the fact that it flexes, it's the fact the flex is so consistent fore to aft. So the relationship between the two axles is really, it's like, again, yeah, it's like a leaf spring, but it doesn't kick you back. Where you ride some stuff where, I mean, maybe not many downhill bikes, but maybe more the trail bikes, but you almost get twist up and spat out.
I almost call it like undamped spring in a way,
yeah, totally,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can tune that to your advantage, I think competitively it goes a long way, right?
And so what tuning options would they have for this bike?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have 3 bridge setups for the front triangle.
Yeah.
They affect obviously vertical stiffness in the front triangle. And then we also have bridges for the upper link. That's more of a lateral tuning option. And then we also have different cross-section chainstays. And that furthers that,
and the
that lever to pull.
cross-section's really interesting. You know, if you get a piece of paper
Yeah.
and you see what its properties are and you put one fold in it
Yeah.
and see how the properties change, right?
Yeah, or you get 10 sheets of paper stacked up, right? So
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Super
And then
cool.
It offers us a really wide array of learning opportunities to eventually take to production, right?
Yes.
And that's what this bike is at the end of the day. It's a blank canvas that we can learn from to eventually have something that rips in the real world, right? So yeah, trying to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, I think this layout is a great, really accessible tool for us. Like, as I was telling you earlier, even just altering leverage rate is such a sensitive point on the bike that doesn't impact anything else. Geo, kinematics, etc. It's only leverage rate.
And that, in some ways, you know, because how would this be a 6-bar, I guess?
To be
Or like
honest
a
with you,
linkage-driven 4-bar?
I'm not even going to give an answer because no matter what I say, the internet nerds are going to like
Yeah,
pick
get at
it
ya.
apart.
Yeah.
Someone's going to say I'm wrong no matter what I say.
But whatever it is, as long as, you know, you can do it via that 6-bar or a linkage-driven 4-bar, if you can isolate the stiffness needs from the shock away from the torsional stiffness of the wheel, you know, the frame, the lateral stiffness.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can really, you know, that's what I think, yeah, that next generation is why I think 4-bars is not, I don't think it's about feel or pedal kickback that we're going to run away from it.
Yeah.
It's all about tuning. Right. Well, let's get back at it.
Yeah,
Hey?
let's do it. At least it's not raining.
Yeah, man. Woo.
That's cruising.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh. So it's the second day. Yesterday, I would say I got pretty settled on the bike. And we're going to start off the day by just getting a few warm-up runs to get me back up to speed before going on to Loic settings, which I'm a little bit nervous about. Now, to mark the occasion, I've gone a size down in pants to try and at least model myself on the fast Frenchman. Now, Loic and I are the same weight, which is one of the things that really settle this thing into motion. Although, interestingly enough, he's a few inches shorter than me, which would almost make it seem as if he has a bit more muscle, although I find that hard to believe. His settings, I mean, just looking at the spring rates, are pretty brutal. So I'm a mixture of both nervous, curious, and excited. But let's get up the mountain, get some runs in on the setup I know, before going on to Loic settings. So Nico, I've been riding for a few days. In some ways, I feel like, you know, you guys have spent probably years making the hardest, fastest downhill bike, and I butchered it by running 7 spring rates too low, an open rebound, and a very soft, gentle setup.
Nah, man, you were cruising. You were cruising.
But now it's time for the Empire to strike back, because we're taking it up a notch. Can you just explain, maybe to, I don't know, sort of from your own riding perspective, as well as what Specialized is trying to do, like going up, I guess it's almost like 2 spring rates, about 50 pounds. That's going to have quite a large effect on how the bike uses its travel, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. You're basically, with any spring rate change, you're raising that line, right? You're putting way more force into the rear axle, or way more force against the rear axle in a way. So Yeah, man, we're gonna put you up a couple notches.
And what's that gonna, because not only are we going firm in terms of spring rate, which you'd normally associate with how a rider might change sag, but also we're going to a firmer compression tune.
That's
So
correct.
what does that mean?
Yeah, like we were talking about the other day, right? It's all about velocity sensitive input. So in this instance, every time you hit a higher shaft speed or even something that you're just cruising along at, you're gonna have way more force output by the damper. So we'll see how you feel. Excited to see.
I'm excited as well. You know, when you look at any setup manual, it's always going to talk about sag.
Yep.
How we set a sag, but me and Loic weigh the same. So what does sag mean for an elite level racer, do you think? Is it just a reference point, or is it something that they kind of actually just say, you know, we've got the data, we kind of move beyond that now?
That's a really good question. So to the normal end consumer and an elite level racer, sag is just as important. As you're asking, they go up a spring rate or two. They're also inputting a lot more, just body movement into the bike. They're hitting things harder. So maybe they're up a couple shades of spring rate, but in reality, they might be sitting at the same, average dynamic sag. So it's all dependent on the rider, of course, and how they input the bike, but sag is critical regardless of who's riding the bike, for sure.
And that word you said, dynamic sag, so that's basically your average position over the course of a run.
Correct.
Is super important.
Yep.
I suppose the last question I wanted to, and it relates to that, where do you sit, or where do you think, in your own experience, a lot of times, there's kind of there's two schools of thought. We should be using full travel relatively often,
Yep.
or we should end up, we should say, that's nice to have, but actually what's important is a consistent early to mid stroke that makes us feel really supported. Where do you think, is it a case of efficiently using the travel, or is it a case of giving something the rider really knows where it is?
I think it's user dependent. Personally, I think a lot of people tune for that one bottom out event, right? So they have, maybe a harsh clack midway through their run, and then they tune the bike for that one event. But that takes away that sensitivity and that mid-stroke feel, that bump eating goodness that you're looking for in a chassis sometimes. So it's always like a game of checks and balances in a way. So personally, I would way rather have that one harsh bottom out and have a great ride the rest of the time. Yes. And I think the racers are looking for that compromise as well, right? It's all a game of just like checks, balances. There she goes.
Look at that. And just like that, I'm going to ride like a professional.
Full pull back.
Yeah. And this is a non-stock air spring as well.
That's correct.
That's
correct.
Jesus. Jesus.
What's that song? Jesus, take the wheel?
I've got a stomach bug, guys. I'm going to go home. I'll see you later. Oh God. That's a big number. Bollocks.
It just shows me pumping for...
Should we do that thing like a long time later?
1 hour later. You might be pleasantly surprised.
This might have actually been the thing holding me back between being an average Joe and the best rider in the world.
I knew it. I always blame it on the equipment too, right? The Rocky theme song comes on as you're getting on the gondola.
Yeah. I'm going to start running up steps in preparation.
Yeah. Let's check rebound real quick.
Yeah. I saw the number. I shouldn't have seen the number.
It's about right, eh?
I mean, it's a different air spring, but it was still a big number. Oh. Right. Oh my word. That's firm. It's balanced though. It's balanced. I'm in danger.
Hey, knock it off! There's a kid back there!
I'm in danger!
Sick. Sun's out. Right. I'm so stoked.
Pretty well solid.
I'm so stoked. This is going to be mint. Right. Kit on. Shred bikes. Start your engines. If this isn't the coolest thing I've ever done, like if this is the coolest thing I ever do, I'll be stoked.
Loic's race rig, basically,
Yeah.
eh? Get it, buddy. Have fun.
So, straight into it. Oh, that is firm, hey. Oh my God, that is firm. Jesus, wet. It is so firm. It's good though. Oh my God, that is firm. Jesus. It is. I've just got to absolutely just step up and get some weight on the front. Come on, get some weight in your hands.
What are your thoughts?
Dude, it's more manageable than I thought it was going to be.
Perfect. It wants you to push.
It wants you to push.
Yep.
This rear end though is like, it is the bike to have a firm spring on because the tracking's so bloody good. Oh my God, I'm going way faster. Oh. Oh my God. This is so controlled. Oh man, this is fucking incredible. Holy shit. It is just so composed. Okay, everything I knew about suspension was wrong. Just need more compression. Normally when you add that high speed compression, you can make the fork feel harsh, but this feels so smooth, like ungodly smooth. How good are bikes? You got lots of
Am I
red
a red
flashing?
flashy guy?
You got a red flashy guy?
Okay. Lap 2, numero dos.
Holy shit, that's fast.
Henry's cooking today.
That is the fastest I've ever gone by there by a country mile. So I was not complaining, I was observing the challenge. Get down here, this is a bit horrible. The challenges of getting the fork to feel as good as the front. Well, that's this, baby. Oh my God. How have they done this?
Happy Henry.
This is amazing. This is genuinely such a privilege. It feels absolutely mad to be doing it on a random Tuesday after Crankworks. This is also a good, proper downhill track. You guys have done a crazy good job.
Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it.
This is amazing. So that's been an amazing 2 days testing. This bike, like genuinely, it just feels like a privilege to ride it. Like coming down there, it was almost like weirdly emotional. I was so happy. It just feels like the coolest thing. I think, you know, mountain biking is something that we all love in different ways. I've like loved the downhill stuff. I love the tech side. This feels just like just the whole experience has been crazy. So before we get to the bikes, I want to say thank you for coming up.
Of course.
You know, thank you to Alan on your end, TJ and Thomas at Ohlins, just for making this work, because it's been a lot of moving pieces, and to get it together feels kind of like a dream come true.
Oh, we're happy to have you, man. And we're happy to support Ohlins. Like, they're great partners of ours. They're so supportive to the team that it's great. We got to get to do this for sure.
And what's been cool is like, how to put this? You know, this has been something that like, you know, I review bikes. I'm an editor. I don't, you know, and so what's been really cool is just seeing like Ohlins and Specialized be like, we just love you to try it. You know, like, no, like this isn't, you know, a paid promotion or anything. This is just people being like, we'd love you to try it. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to try it.
Yeah, man, we were so down as soon as we heard about it. I think Alan was the first one, and he was like, yeah, get the frame up there, get Nico up there. We have a great, talented crew of individuals backing this thing, and to get it all working and together is awesome.
Well, that's it. I mean, we were speaking about it then, I mean, but they say it takes a village to raise for a child.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine how many people it takes on the team to get this going.
Yeah, and as you said, on the Ohlins front, there's a really talented crew of really highly technical, skilled engineers and technicians getting this thing rolling. TJ at all the races, just absolutely killing it, right? On top of that, we have a huge crew of amazing individuals within Specialized Gravity. The mechanics, the riders, Laurent, team managing the whole thing, just making the show happen. And without that, yeah, this chassis and this suspension package would be nothing, right? So yeah, great crew of people, and just wanted to give a shout out to everyone.
So, we've had 2 days of riding this bike. I'd say it was a very good bike yesterday. I'm not saying that I would mimic Loic settings entirely. I probably would go a shade softer.
For sure.
But what amazed me was not necessarily that it was firm or it was any one of these things, but I've used this word to describe Ohlins stuff in the past, and it's composure. There seems to be, I might be talking, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts as well, but it seems to me that when you think about how to tune a fork or a suspension unit, our brain tend to work in the low speed and the high speed. Now, as you add loads of high speed, you can get like kind of an overall harsh feeling. As you add loads of low speed, you can get something that's reluctant to break into its stroke. This somehow bridges a really nice gap, and it's like that medium speed.
For sure.
It is so composed, but yet so comfortable. How? It's quite amazing.
I think that Ohlins does a really good job of, maybe if we break it into those levels of low and high speed, they introduce them in the shape of the curve that is really clean amounts of damping, right? There's no crazy nose and breakaway force to that low speed section of the damper curve. So especially on the compression circuit, to just get this like really supple and great breakaway feel with that added support that a racer is searching for in a lot of instances.
It's certainly made me really consider my own setup. Like, I've been kind of on a journey with my suspension over the last couple of years, to be honest with you. I used to run really, really hard, and I got into the data acquisition, which is all about kind of tuning it to the information you're feeding. So it can be very track dependent. But I ended up going softer and softer. And what's interesting is for me that it had this massive like consequence, because as my suspension got softer and faster, I ended up with more comfort, control and confidence. So then I started riding harder. So now I'm kind of crawling back up in spring rates.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think I'm still very much a fast rebound rider. But this is going to really make me think, it's particularly about that compression stroke. We're talking about how Ohlins has like a 1, 2, 3 on the high speed compression. I normally run it in the 2 and the 3 feels harsh. This feels like 2.5. It's something about that is quite amazing.
Yeah, I think that Ohlins is doing a really good job on their main piston tunes to get things into a solid spot. Just to reiterate, like the shape of that curve introduced with the valving on the main piston is crucial. And to have different valve stacks ready to go for the team to create that curve in the levels of force that they need is crucial, right? Like, man, they can pick from 5 different shocks, right? It's insane.
It. So when we look at, I know it's gonna be quite hard to get dates and times and yes or no's about potentially moving this platform to production bike. But when we come to the OE spec, how does product manager or someone that's like speccing this bike decide at what level the bike works in terms of, is it for the person that's their first on a downhill bike? Is it for you enthusiast, or is it for the all-out racer?
Man, that's a great question for Steve Soletnik, man. He's the product manager on the project. He has that influence on how we drive the direction of this bike. I think it's safe to say this is a race bike, and we're going to build it for the racer. This isn't your pitter-patter rental downhill bike, and we want to keep it that way. We want it to be a reflection of what you're seeing on the circuit, so that a privateer can pick it up and go for it.
It is an amazing bike.
It's great to hear, man.
We were just chatting, and it's like, I'm in a really amazingly fortunate position that sometimes people stop me in the supermarket and they say, what's a good bike?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing because by its definition, most bikes are average. Just because they kind of you get different flavors, and then every now and then you get something that's really standout. I think the Supreme's a standout bike. This is a standout bike. I think they're both very special. I mean, I wouldn't be able to comment truly about which I prefer until we did the same thing with Commensals, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
To really try and optimize the system. Because,
get the treatment.
Because what you've done with this, and listen, I'm not a World Cup racer. I class myself as the enthusiast. I love it. It's what I do. Spend all my weekends doing.
Yeah, totally.
But I just want to put a bike through its paces for me. I'm not comparing it to someone like Loic, but Jesus Christ. I know that you're very tight-lipped on a lot of what's going on here, which kind of adds to the allure of the project, I suppose. I don't really know, I don't know the clicks, haven't counted them. It's kind of been on a gentleman's agreement that don't ask, don't tell.
Sure.
When we look at this though, there does seem to be some things with compliance going on here.
Absolutely.
Is that anything that you can talk to and speak to the needs of, well, your World Cup races currently, as well as
sure.
how you're going to implement that into production?
Yeah, great question. I guess to lead it off, we have a really talented crew of concept engineers, test lab technicians, product managers that focus on what we can offer to the end consumer. Yeah, so we bring things to the race circuit, we see what sticks, and that's what ends up going to production, right? So we have this great blank canvas and really, really, really talented riders on the race circuit that give pointed feedback, and I think that's crucial, right?
Yes.
We have 3 talented individuals, top level racers, you know, Finn Jordan and Loic can't pick a better crew, right? And they give great feedback. It's really crucial to have a racer that can pick up what's going on and it direct towards the chassis or the suspension or whatever you need, right? So
It's really amazing. But I think we're kind of at this intersection of what the next frontier of bike design is. I would bet my bottom dollar it is about compliance. I think compliance tuning is going to give us a new appreciation for geometry figures, because I think it might kind of pocket bikes a bit more. This would be in its flex. This is the most detuned, if you see what I mean. Would that be fair to say?
correct. You're on the most detuned chassis currently. Yeah. It's what Loic runs at a majority of the World Cup venues. There are certain venues, more higher pace, intermediate slope terrain, where Loic might add a bridge in the upper link, for example, so a little bit less lateral flex in the rear end, stuff like that. So currently, you're detuned as possible. And
it's interesting because as we look at, however we describe this one, be it a 4-bar with an externally driven linkage, or indeed a 6-bar, but if you can separate the needs of the shock compared to the needs of the wheel, it can give you a lot of freedom. I think something that I find with the Flexia chassis is that basically the more pendulum swing you have in the bottom bracket, as you drive a turn, you basically fall in line behind your front axle more as you turn. So now that can be disastrous if it's too flexy, because you basically push through the bike, it feels like it loads up like a spring and it can spit you.
Sure.
Absolutely not what we want. But considering this is the most sought after, special bike on the World Cup circuit, and that like I said, your average Joe get on it and can just ride it. I felt so comfortable so soon.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of this chassis and Ohlins as well, right? It's really intuitive. You can get on this platform and that suspension and just go, As long as you have the right spring rates and have a solid baseline, you can really get into it,
Amazing. Right. I was going to say thank you again.
Thank you.
Very,
Thanks
very
for having
much.
us.
It's been an amazing couple of days.
We appreciate it.
I'm just going to drive back to Squamish and just cry. It's been like an emotional roller coaster. It's been so amazing. And like I said, it just feels like genuinely one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Happy to have you, man. Thanks for having us.